can get started.
Sure, Laura, I've started the recording too, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Oh, let me go close my door. I'll be right back. Okay. Jenny's texting me that she has no Wi-Fi right now, so she's trying to log in from her phone. So that'll give us one more if she can figure that out. Oh, there's one more.
Hello.
Hello. We're trying to get Jenny on, and I think that'll be enough for us to get started.
Alrighty.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to mute now. I just wanted to be sure you could hear me.
We're good. Can't remember. Is 6 enough to start the meeting, Dr. Shaw? 6 voting members?
That is a quorum, yep.
Okay.
Who's the
Well,
sixth
then
person?
we will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 4:06.
I think Dr. Williams wanted to know.
Never mind, I see who it is. I got it.
You got it? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm switching over to my agenda now. We need to vote to approve the agenda for today. I did email it out, and I will go ahead and post a link to it as well in the chat. If I can.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Darlene.
Okay.
Who made the
then,
motion? Who made the
I
motion?
think Miss Piard. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, Purard, you got it.
Piard. Okay. So, okay. I was going to try and share the agenda, but now I can't find it. So give me 2 seconds to post 2 things. While I'm doing that, do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 23rd?
I motion to approve.
Who?
Okay, that
It's
was Val. Do we have a second?
Honick will second.
Thank you. Okay, then vote to approve the minutes from September 23rd. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask too much. Do we approve? Anyone against? Okay, then that passes. And I think we forgot to actually vote on approving the agenda as well. So anyone against approving the agenda? Okay, then that should be set as well. Okay, here, let me stop what I'm doing just to try and share these things real quick. Okay, so first link is to the minutes that we just approved, and the next one is to today's agenda. So let me post that as well. If you want to pull that up on your own end, there it is. Okay, so informational items. So our meeting norms are at the bottom of this. We just agree to silence and turn off phones or devices, come prepared, be on time, communicate when you're not able to make a meeting, participate in a positive manner, be respectful of other views and opinions and viewpoints, and work for the benefit of all Roswell stakeholders. So as we do that, then we will go ahead and get started with the principal update. Dr. Shaw?
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Let me go through this. First of all, we just found out, of course, that tomorrow is a remote learning day. Now, while you were talking, Ms. Hunter, not that I wasn't paying attention, my boss said the schools can call it remote learning day or an asynchronous day. So
Okay.
the email I'm going to send, we're going to be asynchronous. So what's the difference? On a remote learning model, you follow the bell schedule, teachers and students, right? Like we did during phase 3 and 4. Asynchronous is assignments are sent to students and they work on them during the day. So that's the model we're going to have for tomorrow. So that email will go out here in just a little bit. So I do want to go through the agenda very quickly, the items that we have, and I want to talk about our guest speaker here today who's going to share a little of the work that she's doing. First of all, Ms. Rogers couldn't join us, our social worker. She said it was okay to share that she had some childcare things she had to do, but she will plan on being here in November, and I think we'll have some more information about our partnerships that we have for mental health and some other things that we're doing. The fun stuff, first of all, our sports teams. Every single fall sports teams made their state tournament. Football has qualified. We're hoping to win the region, but we're pretty sure that they'll be at least in the 4th spot, but we want better than that. We're trying to win the region. Softball made it to state. They lost in the first round, but Depending on who you talk to, it's been 10 or 15 years since they've made it to state, so we're proud of them. Volleyball had a terrific season again, made it to the Elite Eight, lost to Walton, who is the 5-time defending state champion. And I think, from what I hear, we beat Walton last night in one set, and that was the first time that happened in over a year. So really proud of our girls and our coaches and our team. They did a terrific job. Both cross-country teams have made the state tournament, girls and boys. They're both region runner-ups, so they will run a week from Saturday in Carrollton. So very proud of our coaches. And you think about, and it's not, we don't want to understate it, think about how much they've overcome this year. Back in August, we didn't know if we've had sports, but we don't want to leave out cheerleading. They are doing a fantastic job, really fine-tuning what they're doing on the sideline. And of course, our band, they're not in the stands. There's not a marching band show this year, but they're at the games and they're on the track and they're a part of the festivities. So these kids and their directors and coaches really overcame a lot to put teams on the field and to compete, and they're doing great. So I couldn't be prouder of them. I was asked about a COVID update, so I want to talk a little bit because there's a lot of confusion, I think, about how the process works. So very quickly, I'm going to go through this, and I apologize for talking at you. But faculty and staff have gotten a graphic with step-by-step, and they've gotten some emails with some language. But basically, it works like this. If a parent reports through the parent portal, or if a staff member or coach reports through our email address, our COVID email address here at school, it goes to one of our cluster nurses. And as you know, we have clinic assistants in our building, and we have cluster nurses who serve different clusters. What they do is they take the information and they reach out to the parent or the student or the person who feels that they've been either exposed to COVID or they're waiting on a test, whatever the case may be. And they ask them a whole series of questions, right? Who are you exposed to? Did you have a mask? Were we within 6 feet? How long was the exposure? And then they turn that information over to the Fulton County Board of Health if they're not sure. Sometimes they know based on the work they've already done. Remember, these are nurses. And then they recommend to the school and to HR, here's what you need to do. So I know we've had schools in our area that have shut down. I know we have classes that have been sent home. We have had one class that has been quarantined. Thankfully, we haven't had to shut down as a school, obviously. But I think, just to be clear, I think people need to know that these decisions are really being made by medical professionals. It's certainly not me. It's not, for all intent and purpose, Dr. Looney who decides what schools to close. We're really given that information by the Board of Health. And HR will tell the principals, hey, here's who needs to get a letter. There's a low-risk letter. There's a high-risk letter. And then our cluster nurses work with those students and those families to advise them. So that's really how the process works. And it's something we're fine-tuning. Obviously, we've only been doing this face-to-face now for, 2-3 weeks. So we're still working on it, making sure the communication goes out. For example, we've tried to fine-tune it so that the counselors let the teachers know when if a student is quarantined or if a student is at home, when they can come back to school and those kind of things. So I do want to talk a little bit about that process so people know that these decisions are certainly not being made in a bubble. I think there's a lot of people involved, and the folks at the Fulton County Board of Health who are very smart and get paid to follow all this are an important part of the process. So I thought I would share that. The other thing, and Laura, I don't know if I can share my screen, but I do have pulled up the, let me try and see what it tells me. Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, let me see if you guys can see this. Whoops, not working. Can you see my screen at all or no? Are you looking at an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, we are.
Hey, awesome. Thank you, Bill Gates. All right. So what's on the left here is these are the funds, and two things. One is I want to give you a full budget update. We're going to do the full update next month because we still have some outstanding expenditures and some things we're spending on for some different COVID things. So we're going to do it in November, but this is the SGC budget. And Laura, I don't know if you saw this, if Verinda shared it with you, but what's on the left is what has been awarded and what we used to call seed funds, and now they're called flex funds, right? So these are the things that the Governance Council allocated the funds for. So there's our marquee, our Hispanic liaison, which the school now pays for with a little bit of help. Communication staff was allocated, right? JROTC equipment, Mr. Chiclana's Surface Go chargers, textbooks, the facade cleanup, suicide prevention back last year. And then this is the amount that was carried over as far as what was authorized by the Governance Council. On this side is a real real-time, up-to-date picture of where we are. So these funds have been spent. For example, the marquee is already paid for. There was some carryover. ROTC equipment that was over here is now over here, is spent for $2,600. Science equipment. So all of this is what was spent, meaning, and what really matters, the nuts and bolts, is that the governance council is still sitting on $57,000, with the exception of the governance council approved translation headsets to work with our bilingual liaisons. They're still working on those. That prove the technology's proven to be a little problematic as far as getting the right ones that do what we want them to do, and evidently there's not a whole bunch of people making them. So that's encumbered. So this is really 51,000. But that's where the governance council is sitting right now. And I know, Laura, you've talked a little bit about the process for allocating some of those funds. So that is the latest update as far as what the SGC has. And again, this is the money that's already been spent for the student wellness suicide prevention. That's our POP club, which we're still working to get off the ground. This is a student facade cleanup, the work that's going on out in the stadium, the power washing. So this is what's remaining. And Ms. Munker gave me that information actually this morning, so this is the most up to date. And I do have one more little piece of news, I guess, that I do want to share, because we did have a faculty member who resigned, and normally we don't talk about personnel, but she's a member of the governance council, and that is Ms. Emily Kennedy has resigned her position with Roswell. So we are going to, I'll talk to Hannah Zay. I don't know if Hannah's on here, but we are going to have to work, if I remember correctly, I think the principal appoints somebody to finish out the term, but we can certainly let you know at the next meeting how that will work. So that is.
I'm here, Dr. Shaw, if you need me.
Oh, are you? Okay, Hannah, how does that work then as far as if a faculty member resigns during the year?
Sure. Well, so what you'll do is you can bring up another faculty member to take Miss Kennedy's spot, and she or he, whatever faculty member you bring up and the governance council approves, will finish Miss Kennedy's term.
Okay. So that's somebody I would need ready for the November meeting then to present the name.
That would really be helpful if you had them all set to go,
Okay.
so we could vote on them in November.
I got you. Okay. Sounds good. The last thing I want to do is talk briefly about our guest speaker here. So, and if you have any questions for me, for sure. But one of the things that we really started to talk about way before COVID hit was how do we support our at-risk kids as a school, right? So not just one-offs or tutoring, but how do we really build a systemic plan to support our kids who are struggling, whatever it may be? How do we use our study hall time better as a school? What about after-school programs, before school, remedial funds? And of course, all of you know Ms. Ponder, and she's on the agenda in a minute, but I'm going to brag about her for just a second. She does an outstanding job. For years, she was what we call our CAP, our curriculum assistant principal. But one of the duties she's taken over this year, which is kind of new, is really coordinating our efforts to support our kids who are struggling. And we have a lot. It's not a surprise. I'm not, those of you who know me know I just kind of lay it out there. Ms. Ponder can talk about the numbers, but we have about 69% of our freshmen who are failing at least one course, or they have an incomplete in a course. So we are working to get those numbers obviously to a better place and to support those kids. And Ms. Ponder was invited to talk a little bit to the Governance Council. So I wanted to brag on her because she's doing a great job in very difficult circumstances, and she has an absolutely tremendous team of people that are working with her. So with that being said, what questions do you have for me, or anything going on that I can help the council explain or understand, or maybe go get some information for you?
None for me.
Okay. The last thing is, and I forgot to tell you this, Laura, I did look before the meeting and there wasn't any public comment, but I'm going to go ahead and check now and see if we have anything. So thank y'all. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, I'm only an email away. And speaking of which, the email about tomorrow will be going out in just a few minutes. So hopefully that'll clarify some people's questions. But thank you so much for your service, and thanks for caring so much about our kids in our school. So Laura, that concludes my part.
Okay, I'm going to share the agenda again. And actually, public comment is next on our agenda. So I did see that we have a guest, and while Dr. Shaw's talking, Ms. Fallon, did you want to say anything? Or Ms. Hills, I saw you're on here as well.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Thank you to everybody. I don't have any comment.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm still looking. I'm logging in.
Okay.
I logged
We'll
out.
give
Hang on.
Dr. Shaw a second to look that up.
Hey, while you're looking that up, this is Val. I just want to tell you, Lee, how impressed I am with your 3-year plan to get a marquee and your daughter's picture on it. That took like, the coordination of that was amazing. Nicely done. You know I'm joking, right?
I do.
Okay, good. This.
Now I'm looking for some well-being. We need some student well-being.
Ms. Hunter, there's no public comment, ma'am.
Okay, then we will go ahead and move on. And actually, Miss Ponder is next with our guest speaker. And I think some of the reasoning behind having her come in is that one of the things we wanted to start doing today was revisiting our strategic plan and kind of thinking about what our goals are for this year. And it seemed like what Miss Ponder's doing ties in significantly with our strategic plan. So I just wanted to see, kind of get an update from her as to how things are going. And then as we start making our goals for the year, then we can kind of start tying some of that information into our goal setting as well. So Ms. Ponder, if you could give us a summary kind of as to how you're working with, I guess, our struggling kids and kind of where we are with some of these students as well.
Sure. Thank you all for having me. I actually, I'm sitting here like, wow. So Dr. Shaw sort of, what's a good verb for what he did? I think that he simplified, maybe perhaps simplified what I was supposed to be talking about. I just have some numbers for you about incompletes. I didn't realize that I was talking about, you know, all of the things. But why don't I start with incompletes, and then I can sort of go into other things as well. I prepared just some numbers of how many students we're talking about and how many incompletes they have. Hold on a second. Let me turn off my walkie. Sorry about that. So at the end of spring semester, you know, we were still in shutdown mode. And at that point, we ended the semester with about 130 students who had between them a little over 200 incompletes as final grades, which is a lot. And just to sort of explain the impact of that on a transcript, the student gets a final grade of incomplete. They haven't earned any credit, and their numeric grade average isn't impacted, you know, so nothing happens to their GPA. The GPA kind of is unchanged, but they aren't earning credit towards graduation. So that's a lot of credit just sitting out there. And the district decided that students would have the opportunity to clear some of those through summer school, which also ended up being remote. And so through that process, 44 of those 200 got cleared. You know, so some students did take advantage of that to clear in summer school. But that left a whole lot still there. So when we got back in August, a few of those students withdrew, so that took a little bit off of our list. But when we got back, the district offered up a couple of ways for students to go about clearing their incompletes. And one of them was a district-wide process where the district hired teachers from all over to remediate in specific courses. So some of our students opted to go the district route, which is also virtual. So we have about 23 students that are working on clearing incompletes through that process. But also we have a school-wide initiative going on where students are either working in a virtual platform. Edgenuity is what it's called. It's basically what they use in summer school, from what I understand. So the district created modules of content that represented the information that students would have learned from March through May. So we have some students that are working in Edgenuity to complete them. We have a few students who actually, when school shut down on March 12th, they had passing grades, but they just didn't do work during the remote part of the semester. So they didn't do any work, or they didn't do enough work to be able to just take their March 12th grade and run. So for those students who were already passing on March 12th, they are basically at this point just going back to complete work that they didn't complete between March and May, enough work that they can take their previous passing March 12th grade. So, you know, we have a few working that way, but overall, working to complete eyes, we have 65 students working, and some of them are doing more than one class. So a total of 79 courses are being attempted at this point. And, you know, when you think about, you know, basically 80 eyes are being worked on, and it's not really clear how successful they will be or not, but there were about 140 still out there, you know. So that means a lot of them are not being worked on, and it's unfortunate. I mean, you know, these are students who have been offered the opportunity to do it and just have taken the opportunity. And some of them, you know, for very legitimate reasons. Some of these students are right now in the what are we at, 12 weeks? This is the 12th week of school. In the 12 weeks that we've been in school, some of these same students with incompletes from the spring have not been logging in, have not been participating, you know, for this part of the semester. So, you know, the pandemic is really doing a number on these students. I often feel like it's like the have-nots are really in a bad place. You know, they are, you can throw another virtual opportunity at them, but these are students who, in my opinion, need to be here every day in the flow of school. And that's a whole lot, that goes a whole lot towards their success. And not being able to be here is, you know, it's just hurting them a lot. So we are trying, you know, we have programs in place, and the students that are working here at school, or the ones that are working through our school-based program, we have assigned teachers that don't have a fourth period class, which also means they don't have a study hall that they're responsible for. So in lieu of that, having the responsibility of a study hall, we've assigned those teachers to sort of have a couple of students in this group that they are checking on and monitoring, you know, so they reach out to them and, you know, say, hey, come into my room, let's see how you're doing, how can I help? So we're doing what we can to support them, but it's just difficult, you know, when they're not here, and rightfully so. I mean, I totally understand. Out of the 42 students that are working on our program, it's split about evenly. Half of them are face-to-face students, and half of them are still at home, you know, working remotely. So we are all working very hard, but honestly, I'm a little disheartened by the process, because I feel like, you know, these same kids will likely have just as many eyes from this semester, you know, as they had from the spring. And I'm not convinced that the incomplete thing is even the right thing to do. I just feel like it's not really helping them, you know, to not give them credit, or I don't know. I could go on and on about it, but that's what's happening with incompletes. So anybody have questions about that before I go on to other things?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, another thing that we are working on, and we're pretty excited about, is our MTSS team. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered System of Support, and it's actually something that's running out of the counseling department through graduation coaches. So the graduation coach at each high school has formed a team of people that that's working to support students who have been identified as, at risk. And so we have about between 45 and 50 students on our caseload that we're working with. And our team includes our graduation coach, our 504 SST chairperson is there, Dr. Zeitler. I'm on the team. Our school social worker is on the team. Our head counselor is on our team, and also our school psychologist, Andy Underwood. And so we meet every other week and talk about our caseload of students and give updates on interventions that we're doing with them. And it's a combination of interventions that have to do with academic support, but also behavior interventions sometimes. Attendance is a big one that we're working on with some of the students. A number of the students are getting served through mental health support, through counseling, and getting resources through Val and the social workers. So that is actually pretty exciting work, and we can, we all feel like we're making a big difference. We're getting ready to all be trained formally on a process called Check and Connect, which will add more, give us more in our toolbox, more ways of reaching out to students who are at risk, and tips and tricks and things that we can do to try to support them more. We all have that training coming up in November. And along with the team, a number of teachers in the building have also stepped up and expressed interest in mentoring and, having some students assigned to them specifically that they will support through the year. So that process is happening, and we're really excited about that. Yesterday on our, questions about that one, I'm sorry. Any questions about MTSS?
Actually, I do have one question. How are those students identified? Like,
they were identified through they were kids that had been referred to Dr. Zeitler. So there were kids who were identified as needing academic support through her. For like SST kind of kids that are like, whoa, this kid is really struggling really low. But also they came through for students that the counselors were aware of that were in need. They came from Val for students that had, sort of more personal kind of things going on with them where they needed support. The admin team recommended some students who needed behavioral support. So it was just sort of a, four-pronged kind of, these are kids that we're all aware of that are struggling in different ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else have any questions? All right. So I was next going to talk about our ninth graders who are my class to support, the class of 2024. We had, yesterday was a half day for them, and we used the day to have them try to catch up. Dr. Shaw mentioned that a lot of them, is actually 59% of them, had at least one F or one incomplete at the 6-week grading period. And I'll run the report again Friday, because Friday is the end of the 12 weeks, and we'll see if there's been any improvement. But I think that, it's a combination of the transition to high school, where it takes a minute sometimes for kids to grasp that, wow, like this isn't going away and you'll end up with an F, and ooh, what does that mean? So I think that's some of it, but like everything else, certainly a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are, having to conduct school the way we are. So a lot of students are disconnected, unfortunately, and just it's hard for us to reach them and to engage them and to, pull them along when they aren't coming here every day. But I think that yesterday was successful overall. The teachers that are on here can probably speak more to how it, what they experienced on their side in terms of students were able to catch up and do things. But I got some really good feedback from it, and I got a lot of good feedback actually from parents. I even had 3 or 4 parents to say, well, when's the next one of these? Like, are you going to do it again? And I wish we could, but I do think that was, time well spent for our 9th graders yesterday.
I agree very much with that, Ms. Ponder. I have a 9th grader right now, and she was very, very excited to hear that. So good choice.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is that all from you think?
Yes, ma'am, unless anyone has any questions. Dr. Shaw, you have anything that you may want to add or ask?
No, I don't. Just great job, and I think y'all can see why Miss Ponder does this very important work because she's good at it. She can remember numbers, where obviously I can't. So, great job, Miss Ponder. Thanks for what y'all are doing, and appreciate it.
Could you tell, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to speak. Can you tell what MTSS stands for again, please?
Yes, multi-tiered systems of support. Okay. Thank you guys for having me. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Sagana. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Here.
Okay, so our next thing to talk about then ties into that, and that is starting some goal setting for the year. And to get us started, I wanted to refer back to our strategic plan and just do a strategic plan. Where do I have that open? So I'm going to put this in the chat as well if you don't have that available, but here's the link to the strategic plan on the school website. And I'm going to switch over to that as well. If you'll give me 1 second, to see what I'm trying to share. Okay. So here's the PowerPoint version, and we'll just focus, I think, on the first page for now. So the strategic plan is divided into these 4 pillars, basically, I think is what they're called. Hannah can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but the first one is student achievement, people and culture, and as the second, and then we have community collaboration, and fiscal responsibility is basically budget management. So our 3 main ones are really these first 3. And so when we wrote the strategic plan a few years ago, those pillars came from the county. And then we sat down and determined the outcomes, the initiatives, and then the next slides are all focused on each of those. So you'll notice the color coding as well. But if I go back to this first one, so the way our strategic plan is written, we were focusing on graduation rate, college and career readiness, on track for graduation. And then people and culture, we had school and district culture, mainly from the percentage of families and students who would recommend Roswell High School, and same for the staff. And then community collaboration were things like our partnership and our family engagement areas. And so what we want to look at now is, if I can get back into my files, 1 second, in the show, is kind of maybe deciding which of these we wanted to focus on for this year. So which pillar that most needs our support for this school year. And I know Dr. Shaw and I were kind of talking and we had an idea, but we were curious as far as what the rest of the school governance council thought. Just to refer back, for those of you who weren't on last year we specifically really kind of focused on mental health, which doesn't clearly tie into one of these, but if you read our strategic plan, I think it most ties into the community and collaboration one. But what do you guys think for this year? Which of the 3 should be our focus, especially considering everything going on?
Yeah, I think that especially after Sagana's presentation, we probably need to focus on the college and career readiness, I guess, in a sense, because we need to get these kids to graduation, although that could still easily go under mental health, but just something to help these kids who are struggling, and especially, well, in addition to the ones that don't even really know they're struggling, which is what I saw a lot yesterday with the freshmen that needed help, they don't even know where to start. They're still floating along, from March. So that would be my suggestion.
I would agree with that, actually, Valerie. I think that student achievement is really important because of the virtual learning that everyone's doing. It's new to everyone. And I know for my student, there are lots of things that she's not doing as well as she did when she was in class. She's a lot more stressed out with the assignments and getting things done on time. So, I worry about her glossing over a lot of information. And I think that we're going to probably see a lot of that. Grades in general might decline having had all of this virtual learning. I don't know if that's the case, but it sounded like we certainly have a large portion of the student population that is declining. The at-risk students, but the not at-risk students we need to think about as well. So that's my 2 cents. I think student achievement would be really this year.
And Haley, I see your hands up too. You want to share too?
Sorry if I may. I know.
No, go for it.
I agree with the student achievement because I think especially during COVID, like the grading policy and attendance, and it's just all very confusing. And there are a lot of opportunities to kind of fall behind, get out of the regular routine of just school. But I think that one of the sections of the people and culture section, the effective communication, I think we could definitely incorporate that because I know that's been an issue for at least seniors. I've gotten a lot of questions just about because senior year is such a big year and there are a lot of different aspects that we kind of need to worry about for like college and then graduation and all that stuff. So I think communication is something that we could definitely focus on. And I know Dr. Shaw has been doing those newsletters like religiously. And so those are a great source of communication. But I think kind of consolidating that even more would really help student achievement be better because then they are aware of their expectations and just opportunities to get ahead and to get involved and just to achieve more. Thank you.
Thank you. What did you want to add?
I wanted to say that I think college and career readiness is definitely a place that's important. And I was going to also mention the grading policy changing so frequently. It's hard to keep up and know what's being measured and how it's being measured. So I just land on college and career readiness for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know this is, and maybe it's because we just had the presentation from Mrs. Ponder or Miss Ponder, but I know when Dr. Shaw and I were talking, we both went immediately towards like people and community, and was it people and now I just blanked out, people and culture. And I think our thinking was that seems to be where the most stress is, and that the others kind of tie into it. But then when I started looking back at it, it seemed like kind of the mental health aspect was where we were thinking, which ties into more of our community collaboration pillar as well. Would you agree, Dr. Shaw, that that's kind of where you and I were coming from, or
yeah,
that's where I was at least?
Sorry to interrupt you, Laura. Yeah, absolutely, that was. But again, I think you make the best decision with the information that you have at the time, and I think what Ms. Ponder shared and some of the concerns we have as we're now, getting crashing towards the end of the semester with a lot of kids who are struggling. It's really the decision of the council. But yeah, that's where we were the other day for sure.
Mm-hmm. But it definitely sounds like we're leaning more towards the student achievement at this point. So the next question then is, could we identify some goals or initiatives that would be best supported by SGC this year that would help us to address that, I guess, student achievement pillar for the school year? Any thoughts? We have some little prompts too that we consider about the impact COVID has had How might we continue the work and progress of learning and teaching? Are there pre-existing things, or do we need some new supports? And then how can we start tying in maybe some of the flex funds into that idea as well?
I think that for our students who have incompletes and who are failing, you know, like really the only way to fix that is to get them to do the work. And for most of them, the only way they can do the work is if there is somebody standing there either making them do it or helping them do it, or a combination of the two. So I would imagine there will need to be programs offered during their study hall, offered before and after school, all of which would need you know, people and manpower, probably in, you know, some sort of, you know, whether they're new people who come in or existing people already there that spend that time with them. You know, tutors, I don't know.
I know I might be glitchy a little bit because I'm on my hotspot for whatever reason, but if you can hear me, one of the things that I've noticed this semester, and I don't know if there's something we can do about this as a council, is when the work is not being graded, when it's not a summative assignment, they won't do it, and they're not learning because they won't do any of the daily classwork. And we are in a culture, our school culture nationally and locally is a regurgitation system. I do it because I get a grade. I do it. It's like, you know, I do it because I get an immediate grade. And I don't know how to change that, to shift that, because I feel like there is no engagement unless they are getting a grade for whatever it is. And with the 12 assignments, you can't give a grade for every single thing you do, and therefore they are completely tuned out. Like they're like, why would I do all that work for no grades? So I don't know how to, I don't know. And then they're not doing well on summatives because they're not doing the daily work. So that's just like kind of goes into what's happening grade wise. And I don't know how to fix that. And just throwing that out there.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm glad you said that, Jenny, because my daughter last year was pretty much a straight A student, and I hear from her frequently, oh, that one's not getting a grade, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I think, how much are you missing by not doing all of these things? So, you know, I don't know how we go about, if that means getting extra people, like Valerie had said, you know, to supervise this, or to, you know, I think we have to identify where we're going wrong, where the deficits are, you know, from a communication perspective, you know, where, and I was going to talk about this in a little bit, how do we target our communication goals to reflect, you know, how do we get the community involved in this problem? Because we are not going to have all the answers ourselves. I feel like parents, you know, each parent might have their own perspective about why their children are not doing whatever it is. But I feel like we need to incorporate the community somehow, you know, whether it's survey based or whatever we do, to try to get some ideas, get their ideas, you know, why they think that where the deficits are, and where they feel like we can improve. But
I think that truly we have two different groups of students too. There are, you know, the students who can't do the work on their own and can't do digital learning and can't do, you know, work because they have big gaps left over from, you know, in the case of the freshmen, the 8th grade. And then we have the groups of students that used to be diligent students and engaged students and now aren't. So it could be that we have to look at it in two different ways. I don't think that there's going to be one overall fix. So for the kids that maybe aren't engaged now, but used to be, they don't need after school tutoring perhaps. And the students who aren't able to do the work at all and don't even know where to start, they don't even know the difference between a summative and a formative. So there are like two big groups with a huge space between them. So it could be that it's two different programs and two different strategies.
So it sounds like one of our goals might be working on that, like incompletes and the credit, and what could we do to help support that clearing of the incompletes? Does that sound like a, and which would kind of go towards those that can't do the work, and what could we do to help those kids?
Yes.
And then the second thing we're talking about is engagement, and so increasing student engagement, kind of, is that, am I wording that one right?
I don't know, like, or just a culture shift in we only do work for grades, which I don't know how to fix. I don't know how to change that. I just feel like that's the battle we're fighting right now.
Mm-hmm. But I think if we can empower if we can empower students and we can empower their families, we're going to get a little bit better response. Mm-hmm. I think.
So I just want to chime in a minute about the Check and Connect that y'all are about to roll out over there. So at Crabapple, we are in the process of getting that going too. And it looks like a really good program. So I feel like a lot of what we're talking about right now could potentially be addressed through that Check and Connect mentor program. And I know at my building, I've got because I'm the graduation coach at Crabapple, I've got about 30 kids that I need to find mentors for Check and Connect. And I don't have that many interested staff people that want to, check in with these kids. So I don't know, maybe that can be a focus through work with the faculty on the Check and Connect and provide support there. That's going to help. Check and Connect will hit the families, and it tries to really engage families. And it also is really strategic in how it problem solves and sets goals with kids to get kids across the finish line. So that might be something that we want to
Kirsten,
yeah.
Are the mentors, are they just teachers doing it like above and beyond?
Yes. So at this time, yes, at this school, that's kind of where we're going with it. Yeah. In a perfect non-COVID world, the community would be involved. And so there would be people from all over, businesses that would come and meet with kids. And of course, you have to have parental consent and all of that. But in a perfect world, the community would be involved with these
yeah. With teacher morale where it is, it's a really hard ask right now.
It is a huge ask on teachers, yes. And so that's the other thing I was going to say. While student achievement is absolutely our number one goal, but I feel like Roswell High School y'all do a really good job with all the support that you're offering the kids. And I think that people and culture is almost as important right now with morale where it is for teachers and families, how the families are struggling. So that's my 2 cents.
Agreed.
I really agree with that too. I think if there's any way we can, support the teachers as well, not just, the students and the parents. The teachers, I think, need probably more help than all of us. So that's something we should think about as well.
I have a question. I believe I recall that there is peer-to-peer tutoring in the math department, maybe. I don't know what kind of, there's, asking teachers to do more and they're already giving more. I don't know if there's a way to incorporate peer-to-peer tutoring, encouragement. I don't know how the Check and Connect works, but
so what
I don't know.
The math department did, it was the Math Honor Society that would come in Wednesday mornings and help kids who came for extra help. So yeah, that would be great. The teacher who's leaving was also the one who's in charge of the Math Honor Society. And I don't know if anybody has picked that up yet, but then it also requires kids coming into your room in the morning. Yeah. So I feel like so many of these things just have to wait, but also so many of these things are so time sensitive. It's like this huge puzzle. But yeah, that's a great idea. And because that can also, when you help somebody else, you're helping yourself. So those kids who aren't feeling engaged but are capable might feel more engaged if they're helping kids that really struggle. And you're like, oh, this is easy for me, that kind of thing. So it's a really good idea.
And I think if we can think about in an ideal situation, not the COVID world we're in right now, how could we fix this? Because once we can identify what that would look like, then we can adapt to where we are now. You know, we obviously cannot put more on teachers than is already there, but if we know what would benefit in this situation if it were not COVID world, you know, as we think of these, you know, let's try to think about it, you know, the ideal portion, and then we can tone it down or modify it as needed.
Is Hannah still on this in this meeting?
Yes, and she had a comment too asking about like how much do we feel like we can handle? Like where can we identify like one thing? I think, is that what you were saying, Hannah? And I saw that in the chat.
So I think you guys are brainstorming so well right now, and all of the things are so valuable to consider. What I'm kind of encouraging each of the SGCs to do is to brainstorm big like you are now, but be really realistic about what you as an SGC can tackle this year, considering everything that's going on. So continue to brainstorm, but then as you do, eventually we're going to want to kind of filter to like one main goal that you could kind of give an elevator speech to anyone, that like our work this year is centered around X, and we hope to achieve this by doing this. So really narrowing down to one thing that we truly can focus and tackle on given the current environment.
So the reason, Hannah, I was asking if you were still on the call is because I know that you are you're all over the place. You have eyes and ears in a number of schools, and your colleagues have eyes and ears in all the schools that you don't have. And I know that you all meet. It might be interesting to hear, I mean, as we think about how we might tackle this, it might be interesting if you end up with some really solid thoughts and plans. I mean, how many high schools do you work with?
I have 2. Most of my other colleagues have 3 to 4.
Okay. Well, I know that we're not in this boat by ourselves.
I certainly know.
We have, what, 17 or 18 high schools in Fulton County, 100 schools overall. So, you know, we're not on an island. And so, I don't know, just a thought.
So,
here are some other folks are solving.
Your question. So are you kind of looking to see and compare what other high schools are looking to focus on this year?
I would be interested in at least, you know, high schools that look like us. And we have, you know, we're all over the place in terms of the district. But I would be interested. I don't know if the council would be interested, but I would love to, you know, kind of hear what other people are thinking about. There's so many great minds, you know.
Oh, excuse me. It's so hard virtual calls to like not interrupt someone.
It's okay.
So all of the councils in this kind of October, November month are doing exactly what you're doing, and they're doing the brainstorming for this. So it will actually be quite accessible to talk to my colleagues, my other 3, and get a sense of where they are. Now, some councils are struggling to even meet right now, just with everything that's going on. Others, I think it's Johns Creek, like they're moving forward on projects. Like, so there's definitely a different pace and cadence in each of the schools, but I will absolutely be able to bring you an update at are you having a November meeting, Laura?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be able to bring you an update. And there's a tool that you have that was on the October agenda that's like a whiteboard that gives you access to a brainstorming template, and every school has access to that. So I'll be actually able to share with you other high schools' brainstorming template. So as you guys continue with this, you can fill out your whiteboard, and then we can also look at what some of the other high schools are doing as well.
That would be helpful, I think.
Okay. Is that the whiteboard? I'm not sure I see this.
So in the in the memo that went out, oh, I don't know, a week or so ago, that was
Okay.
October notes. There was a sample agenda, and then at the bottom of the sample agenda, there was like an Excel sheet, and it had all of the schools on it, and then each school had its own whiteboard.
Okay, I'll have to look at it. I'm looking from the example October agenda, but I'll have to look at that one as well.
So that might be something that you're
I
going to
see.
be
Okay.
ready at your November meeting. And so we'll be able to look at others who have done it. And some of them might be doing it in November also, actually. But then we can kind of start brainstorming ourselves and then look at whatever schools we have as other examples.
Okay.
Did you find it, Laura?
I think, well, and it might be the same document I'm looking at. Is it this one that has like the like steps kind of?
It has the steps, and then I believe there was an attachment that has an Excel document with links to the whiteboard.
I don't see that.
I will shoot it to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And it could just be lost in all of my emails because that's tripled and quadrupled lately. Okay, I think that before I try and kind of summarize, I see some hands up too. So, Dr. Williams, did you have some comments too?
Yeah, just from my experience with the student achievement and as a former school counselor, I think there's something to be said, and I don't know what the answer is and or what program we can do, but there's something to be said for parent involvement, because the teachers can't do everything or a whole lot more than what they're doing now, especially when the kids are at home and the teachers at school. And I mean, what are they going to do? So me as a parent, I saw my son, and I went in and I realized that he was not doing those assignments, that he was not getting great, and I had to tell him, well, that's not an option, but I didn't realize it for a while. Like, many assignments had gone by and I had to make him go in and do it. So I don't know. And I had to increase the communication between myself and one particular teacher, because it was only an issue in one class, not the rest. So I don't know about the communication between the school and the parent, because the parent has to watch and make them do it if they're not going to do it, because he's capable. Ability was not his issue in that group that's able, not doing it because he's not getting a grade for it, blah, blah, blah. So if the student is not seeing the value in it, the parent has to make them do it, because we are the adults and we see the value in it. So there has to be some sort of outreach, I think, to the parents to get them a little bit more involved in the checking and in the making them do this. Because it definitely ties to the achievement. They have to do these assignments in order to do well on the summatives and all of that stuff. So I don't know. I did have one teacher who did reach out to me and say, hey, this is the issue. And then we communicated, and that grade sure did go up, so I don't know what we can do to increase that type of communication, or I don't know, a parent pep rally, I don't know, to get them on board with this, because just because the kids are home, we can't just leave them to their own devices, or they're going to just, do all their work in their bed, and that's not going to work. No. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I think the parents are going to be an integral part of this situation here.
So it sounds like maybe the clearing incompletes is what we were talking about a minute ago, but it also sounds like maybe that's something that Sagana has somewhat under control. Is that, and I'm thinking more if we switch to that engagement and really the communication and maybe some kind of parent programming type of idea, that might be more of the way where SGC could go to kind of support things, which would kind of fall more under the people and culture, which can then help support the other pillars. Does that sound like I'm summarizing kind of where our conversation's going?
Sure, I guess that can go under people and culture, but it'll directly affect student achievement if parents are more engaged. Especially now that the kids are home. For the kids that are home, they can't. They're there with them.
Mm-hmm. I think that would just be
And
one
that
of
will
those
help.
short-term things to support
Mm-hmm.
the student achievement.
Right.
So
I don't know that Sagana has the clearing the eyes under control, though. I feel like that, we did that one day with the freshmen and saw some progress. But I think that's going to be we're going to see results in our graduation rates for the next 4 years. Because students aren't going to be graduating because they'll have these eyes on their transcript. And I think that those are the same students whose parents aren't going to be involved anyway, because either, they're busy with 2 jobs, or there's a language barrier, or there's some other sort of dysfunctional issue at home. So I still think it's like 2 distinct groups.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
the
still
engagement is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
well, no, the engagement is going to help one group, but it's going to help kids raise their grades, right? Because they're not doing formative, so we increase engagement so that they do formative, and it increases their grades. It's not going to help those students who aren't doing work at all.
Mm-hmm.
Generally
So
speaking.
kind of if we go for kind of 2 goals, one, maybe research what we can do to help support Sagana, and whether it's maybe offering some teacher incentives to help with the program, or wherever we can continue to brainstorm where we could go with that. But as far as a goal, what we could do to support that process. And then our second thing is to focus on this engagement and some kind of communication and parent outreach type of thing. Yes, Dr. Williams.
Just from another one of my experiences, I have a friend, for those kids, you'd be surprised how many parents out there think their kids are doing work, and they're not doing any work. I have friends.
Yes.
You are dead on.
I have a particular, and I know that this child is not doing any work because this child is friends with my son, and he'll tell me such and such is not doing any work, but he's telling his mom he's doing work. And his mom is my friend, and I called up my friend and I was like, hey, your son is on the computer, but he is not doing anything, so I had to tell her that. And so now she goes on the computer, she's like watching, but she's thinking he's sitting there at the computer all day, and nobody's telling her that he's not doing work because he looks like he's doing work.
So Dr. Williams, I have to concur, because even as a parent, as engaged as I am, I can't tell you whether or not my kids are doing work. I have them in 2 separate parts of the house, have their own space. They're busy. One's in my office with the door closed, the other one's in the dining room. What came out for me was the component that I learned from a teacher, that this child was not doing the instruction part of the lesson. Because that just the same thing that we're talking about right now, I didn't even know, that's not a grade. So I'm not doing that. But you have to do that to do well on the rest. Mm-hmm. So I don't know whether or not this instruction piece is being done until this teacher finally dug down and told me. So all the different places that you find information as a parent, who knows where all of this is? 1, 2, I know that in the math department, I guess maybe it's all Edgenuity, your teachers can tell you if your kids are having idle time. So they may have their computer open, but they might not be doing anything. But who's to know as a parent? I mean, at some point there is accountability in high school as kids are getting older and older. Parents, right? It's our job. I'm in it to win it. Having some more information like I do now is really helpful, which is helping me to turn that corner with that child, with my child, a child. So more as opposed to being a detective, and I don't even know where to look.
So yeah, I think it'll be helpful for some parents I think some parents will be enlightened about what their kids are are not doing.
I 100% agree with you on the flip side and just the devil's advocate side. I feel like I have explained it like 12 different times, 8 different ways to parents and kids. And I had a child come up today and say, "Can you explain to me how the grading works?" And I'm like, I don't know how else to say it differently. I explained it at open house. I have emailed several times. It is really hard. I think what Val was mentioning is kind of where it is. I think that, I have a couple kids in the building as well, and I've had to go back and find out, like, I don't even know what's going on in all their classes, and it's tricky and whatever. But a lot of our parents aren't doing what what y'all are doing and digging in and getting the answers. They're working, like Val said, a couple of jobs, or they don't have time, or they're exhausted, or they're language barriers. And we are missing communicating with half of our parents, I would say. And I don't like that. Like Hannah had put in the chat, a parent university or a toolkit. I think that's all really good. But a lot of times what happens with those programs is you end up preaching to the choir. Like, you get your really involved parents coming, and your really involved parents want to know more, and it's yay, but we are missing. I don't know if we could think of something that would really truly communicate to the greater group. I feel like on my end, I've explained it so well, and so I'm going, I have no idea what she expects. And it's just that gap is so hard this semester, and I don't know how to close it.
Sorry to interject this, but seeing what you had said, Hannah, about, the parent university or toolkit, I don't know if it would be possible to make some kind of, get all this information, and not teachers to do this necessarily. This could be us, or it could be anybody really, but if there's a way to perhaps make little video clips to send out to parents with key points, advice on how to get your kid to pay attention, or, what to do when in this situation, but kind of brainstorming of different ways that we can put together. And I, certainly wouldn't mind doing this, but to make these short, we have to think about how these parents that are not engaged, how we can get them to. So what can we give them that is easy for them to, they don't have to do a lot, but the message can get to them clearly. The newsletters are awesome, but even I miss some information in there sometimes, and I don't know of another way to do that, but by sending, or, creating a web page that has little blurbs of, this is what's happening in this area, or, something like that, and certainly translate that into Spanish as well, Hannah. But something to that effect that would give information in an easier way to be received for these parents that are not engaged, because, I'm working a full-time job. I've got 2 different age kids at home. I'm trying to do it all. Even right now, I'm trying to get dinner out of the oven. Everybody's busy, and we're all trying to make this work. So without putting more work on teachers, how can we get those parents? And I think that's the biggest key. That, Dr. Williams, you were certainly saying that. I think that's going to be the key to most of this, is getting those parents, getting them to step up and recognize where they can help.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep us moving for the sake of time for today, but I do think that we're kind of leaning towards 2 goals, and then exactly how we want to do that, we can kind of address that in future meetings, or even set up maybe some committees to start looking into these a little bit more. But I'm saying for now, it sounds like we have a goal to kind of work on that student achievement area with the what can we do to help support the clearing of the incompletes, and the second one, some kind of engagement, some kind of parent tips or university or something like that, that we can help parents to support their students. So that would also kind of tie back into that student achievement area. Does that sound like a good summary for now? And then we can move into more with next next meeting.
And Laura, can I just jump in and say thank
Uh-huh.
you? You know, I'm just listening, and that's the beauty of this, is the different conversations and the different perspectives that people have. So thank you. I learned a lot, and I really appreciate it, and looking forward to next steps, because this is a big mountain to climb, but I really appreciate the conversation.
Okay, so I'm gonna let us move on into the next we had on the agenda for an update from the Superintendent Advisory Council, and I know I had talked to the students. Are you guys ready to kind of give us a summary of what you learned from that?
Yes, we are. Haley and I are on the meeting. We've been listening and like communicating, and we kind of, I know we have limited time, so we kind of have an agenda of like what we want to share with you guys from the meeting and talking to Dr. Looney. And I really like appreciate everything that's being said, and especially as a student, like this is really amazing that we're like trying to implement a lot of programs to help sorts of students, because this is an uncertain time for everyone in different ways. So I really appreciate that. And so with the meeting that we had with Dr. Looney, we basically like carved out like three different topics that we're trying to like improve and change. And then Haley and I are also going to talk about like other things that like we're working on. But first, I know we were talking about attendance, and obviously this year like attendance doesn't really affect exemptions at the moment, and like a lot of people, there's like no incentive for them to really like come to school and participate, especially if they're online, because they can be marked present but then they don't really pay attention during class. They can just like have their microphone and camera off if they're virtual. However, Dr. Looney is trying to put in place different policies where if a student is in person now in a school in Fulton County, then they can log on through Teams if they're like absent at a college visit or like on vacation, and they can log on through Teams and be involved in class even if they're not there in person. And he was saying that that is adequate for 5 days per semester. So that will like help with students still engaging in the work and in their classes, because I think it's great that we now have this outlet of like virtual learning. And I think we should really strive for that next semester, because I feel like we should take advantage of what we have. And then I know we also talked about grades, and I think this like achievement as well, like obviously with attendance and grades. And Dr. Looney was talking about our new like grading policy with recovery, and I think they're being like a lot more lenient now and like understanding like students need a little bit of from the teachers and leniency. So he was saying that if any student got a 79% or lower, they could redo to get up to an 89%. And there's also been some faults with the grading policy, like the 12 summative assessments that is in effect right now. And Haley and I are kind of on the boat of like trying to change that, because obviously, as Ms. Hardigan said earlier, there is no incentive for students to do their work. And obviously that correlates to a culture where students strictly do work for grades instead of just like the motivation to like learn and participate. But I think for those students who still put in the work, still put in and like a vast amount of effort, should get credit for those assignments. And so limiting us to only 12 assignments that are allowed in the grade book is like kind of not like disheartening, but for lack of a better word. And Haley will also go into this, but I just also wanted to touch on another thing we're working about, which is the Student Bill of Rights, which is what we're working on the advisory committee. And Dr. Looney would love to have a drafted, almost like formal document where there is a list of student rights and then also student responsibilities. And so we can hold the students accountable, but also the school accountable. And it's almost like a give and take where like the students have these rights, but they also have responsibilities that they have to upheld as well. And we are drafting that right now, and we're trying to finalize it by next semester. And that can help obviously with accountability and just having some specific different guidelines so students like kind of know like what their rights are, but then like what they need to like hold up their end of the bargain. And I think that can also help with like either like schoolwork and being involved, but also like knowing that they have the right to have opportunities and resources. So that's basically what we're working on. And I'll give it to Haley because she has a lot of stuff to talk about.
Cool. So yeah, main two concerns of the student body right now is just attendance and a little bit of exemptions because of in the past exemptions have been affected by attendance and the grading policy. Like Kirsten said, with the current grading policy of the 12 summatives, there's not only no incentive, like where students are just not motivated to do their work because they won't get a grade for it, but also it's like, if you do the assignments, it's like you exert all this effort on them and then you don't get credit for it. So it is kind of disheartening, kind of like what Kirsten said. But we are working with Dr. Looney on how to improve it. And I know that someone mentioned that changing the grading policy often is like a little confusing, but I think that goes into our responsibilities, kind of with the people and culture, just the effective communication and making it clear. And obviously, like Ms. Hardigan has said that like it's very difficult to make it clear to everyone, but that is something that we need to improve upon, I think. And also just from me and Kirsten's standpoint, just being leaders in student council, that's something that we're learning along the way is how to communicate effectively. But yeah, so just those grading policies and the attendance is something that we're still working through, still trying to figure out. But the main thing that I want to talk about is that is something that me and Kirsten are working on with a Fulton County communications team member. She reached out to us about the text for help, where students can text a medical professional about mental health concerns. It's free, anonymous, and available 24/7, 365 for anyone who didn't really know what it was. But we are having a meeting with her tomorrow morning about how to communicate the app's function and message better to the student body, because I know some people don't really know what it is, or they've seen signs around, they don't really know what it's for. And she asked us how we could better use our social media platform. Me and Kirsten's, we have a presidential account that we push a lot of information out. And so we've been learning a lot about effective communication through that specifically, but we're basically just going to talk about the message and the function of the app and how to communicate that clearly to students, especially in this time of COVID. And a lot of mental health is something that we want to stress even more. And also not just like we want to keep progressing that, not only have it during this like weird COVID year, but also keep it going even after COVID is not the super main concern. So yeah, text for help. We're going to have a meeting about that. So I'm sure at the next meeting, we'll have some more decisions made about that and just some more concrete things to share with you guys about that. And this is a little bit of a smaller thing, but I just wanted to clarify. Along the line of like social media communication and just communicating with the student body, because that's like the main thing that takes up a lot of our time, me and Kirsten, is just communicating with the student body of like COVID stuff and about scheduling. And now that we're going back full face-to-face, it's a little easier because now things are kind of returning to some sort of normal. But I just wanted to confirm with Dr. Shaw that students are not expected to sign on to Teams calls tomorrow, that they're only supposed to work on the work that's assigned to them, because I know that we're calling tomorrow an asynchronous work day. But I just wanted to, I've been getting questions during this entire meeting, so
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that.
Haley, I know that one of the issues with Blackboard is the emails I send to parents don't go to students, but yes, it is correct that tomorrow is an asynchronous day, so you'll have assignments to do, but you don't have to follow the bell schedule.
Perfect. Okay, that's awesome. And yeah, I know that's one of the things that we were going to try to figure out is how to get on the email list or maybe start a student one. So yeah, but that's the main thing: grading policy, attendance, and the text for help, and the Bill of Rights, which I think is a really cool idea. And I really appreciate Dr. Looney for coming up with that and letting us do it. So, but thank you guys so much for having us on here. Sorry we missed the first meeting, but we will make sure that we're in attendance from now on. And we're super excited to be here, and we really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to make some decisions about what's best for the school and how to move forward, especially in this weird time. But thank you guys so much. Does anybody have any questions about anything that we talked about?
I just want to say thank you for putting, I know that was a lot of effort that you guys went through. I appreciate all that information from your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just trying to be as effective as possible and actually invoke change and improve like certain aspects of the school year that are obviously everything's very uncertain and can be unclear, and it's just trial and error. So thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you guys so much. That was exactly what we were interested in. I don't know why I'm waving because we're still in the meeting, but just a sec. I was gonna reshare the agenda. I just realized I'm not sharing that anymore. And we're getting close. We're getting there. The parent and community members from that that version of the superintendent's advisory board. I can't remember who the members are. Was that you, Darlene? Are you a member of that?
I am a member of that, and I had a work conflict. I was able to listen to just a few minutes of the meeting, and then work, crashed into my life.
I'm in a meeting. Can you come back and? Okay. Thank you. Sorry, custodians. Okay, so we'll check in if we get a chance later on. With that, I just put it on there because I wasn't sure if you were able to attend or not. So then we can keep moving. We have the website audit on here, but Dr. Williams and I discussed that. Did you? I'm sorry, I forgot to follow up.
I took Hannah Zay's. I looked at it, and I did a kind of informal audit of our website based on Hannah Zay. She sent a kind of form to like a checklist. I guess that's what they would use to do a website audit. So I do see things that need to be updated and changed. Like the student reps, for example, need to be changed. Our names and email addresses and all that stuff is fine. Like some order of things need to be changed. The biggest issue would be where the strategic plan is. Like there's some big things on there that need to be changed. I don't know if you want me to go over that here, or I can just send you an email about it. But I did go over the audit based on the chart that she had emailed to us.
Okay, then maybe you and I can reach out with Susan Murphy, maybe, and since she's in charge of, or she has all the access to our website, and we could maybe set up a time to kind of go through that, or you two could to see what needs to be fixed, or maybe even one of us can get access to it. I don't know. But
yeah, I think the changes. What I could do is just type up what I see needs to be changed and send it to you so you could take a look.
Okay.
And then you can just decide, and then we can just forward it on to her.
Okay, that sounds like that's a plan.
I said it in detail based on what Hannah sent.
Okay, so but there are a few things that we need to change, and I've been on there recently, and it seems a little all over the place anyway. So we can address that, and we'll get that taken care of.
I'll send you.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Do we have any committee updates? I I'm thinking we're probably not going to have time for committee meetings today, but any updates from the committees?
So for budget and finance, this meeting, has been extremely helpful. One, because of the information that Dr. Shaw shared at the top of the meeting. And two, the conversation around our strategic goal or goals, and how we want to begin to frame and think about what we want to fund. So when I was looking at this, I started with the end in mind. And the end in mind, as I understand, is that our flexible funds must be spent by June 30. I know Hannah has left. Dr. Shaw, are you able to confirm that as long as they're encumbered, that's all that matters, or do they actually have to go out of the door?
That is, oh, sorry. That is, I was standing up. That is absolutely correct. Ideally, we want to get them off our books by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So yes, what happened last year is we were allowed to carry them over. But so yes, Ms. Trigg, if they're encumbered and the process is going to get them spent, we should be okay. But in a perfect world, all the purchase orders and requisitions are cleared by June 30th.
So that being the case, I'm not going to say it's a tight timeline. I worked out a timeline, but I can discuss that with the budget committee. We don't have to go through that detail here. But so there's a November meeting. There's not a December meeting. And teachers are back in school on January 4th. So in the timeline that I'm suggesting, as I said, I'll go through this with the committee for their feedback and confirmation, is that the applications need to get out in the universe for consideration. That was one way I was thinking, so that people can actually think about what they need and or want. So that when we come back in January, the applications are due, we're doing the work, we're getting the details, and we're putting a stamp on everything for the February meeting. So that gives us time to buy what we need to get through the process. It doesn't sound like it's hurried, but it feels very hurried, especially as we're still talking about, what our goals are that we want to commit to. So I'll put that out there. I think this is committee work, but I want to say it out loud for transparency purposes. I do have a question. So the application will go to teachers, administrators, and stakeholders. I am curious to know, and I assume this is true because I remember it to be true in the district, that in the high school, is someone able to communicate to all the teachers and all of the administrators at the drop down box, something like that?
Yes, we can send emails to the entire school. So anyone who would be on that list would be covered in that. And then I think in the past, we've also sent it to PTSA as well as kind of that stakeholders part of it, to get some feedback from them as to ways we can support as well.
That's what I was thinking, that group as well. So I'm feeling like the recommendation was that the application be sent on October 30th, but I'm not sure that we're ready to do so. It seems like there's still so much in the air after this conversation.
Why don't we schedule a budget and finance committee meeting for sometime in the next week or so, so that we could get that process somewhat started, and at least nail down the timeline a little bit more, because I do think aiming for February would be good. So we can reach out and set up a meeting for that in the next week or so. And I forget who all is on that again. I know you and I, and then Dr. Williams, and I think it was Miss Kennedy.
Miss Kennedy, yes.
Will need to be replaced. So it's, for the most part, it's the three of us. So we can, I think that'll be pretty easy to schedule. So if you want to reach out,
I'll do it.
We can do that.
That'll be easy. I'll get that. I'll reach out to you all today or tomorrow to get something on the calendar for next week, and we can tie this down and then move on. So
Sounds
that's
good.
my report.
Okay. Anything from communications?
You know, this conversation's been so great as far as the communications committee, and I think that we had spoken about coming up with, you know, some surveys or some kind of method to communicate with parents. But I think once we solidify what our goals are, then we're going to be able to develop a communication plan accordingly. So if, you know, we probably, after the November meeting, hopefully we can narrow down what those goals are going to be. And then we can all, the committee can get together. And I'm sorry, this month has been so crazy for me. I was supposed to reach out to everybody and I just didn't. I totally dropped the ball on that, guys. So please forgive me for that. But once we figure out where the goals are, then our communication can be targeted to address that, if that makes sense. So I love this conversation. I think we've got some great ideas, and I think we're going to be able to get the community involved in unique ways, which is our goal. So that's really, at this stage, that's probably about it. But after next meeting, we should have some more ideas about how to proceed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. And then, so next meeting, we're on to setting agenda items. I think we're going to continue our goal setting discussion and maybe kind of firm out exactly, start leaning into what we can do with that and to help reach those goals. And we will hopefully narrow down the timeline for the budget. Is there anything else that you think needs to be added to the agenda? Okay, well then I will use the information from the county and this conversation, and I will get that agenda hopefully out a little bit earlier for you guys. And I think we are done then. To adjourn the meeting, do I have a second? Or do I have a move? What's the
I'll
word?
move.
There we go.
I'll make the
Thank
move,
you.
Meredith.
Do you have a second?
I'll second. It's Val.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for keeping us
good
on
meeting.
track. You're like right on time. I'm so impressed.
I'm listening. I have all kinds of notes going right now today too.
Great job.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Vote to adjourn. Anyone against? Okay, then I think we are done for the day. That was a good meeting. It went a little longer than normal, but I think we had a good discussion. So thank you guys. That was very interesting, and I'm glad we had a chance to do that. Awesome. But y'all have a good day. Stay safe and dry.
Everybody have a good one.
Bye.
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 Thank you guys.